Some things you just can't escape. Just the way it is. The way it always was. Moments sent out across time, like some kind of herd of gophers, gone out to graze among the stars. They come echoing back to call us to our destiny. Yeah, they come back. I know they come back for me.
Cowboy.
Yeah, I knew Mr. Pancake. What can I tell you about him? He was a guardian spirit, out of place and out of time. He was the crack of lightning that came sprinting out of the sky. He was a peanut butter jelly sandwich. He was a used car on sale for $1,999. He was the sunshine that made the temperature go up on a warm day. He was a grave-robbing son of a bitch, a dolphin slayer, and a gambler. At the end of the day, he was none of these things. As most of all, he was Mr. Pancake. My friend. My captain. Shit. Suppose no story about Mr. Pancake would be complete without first discussing the origins of our universe. So let's take a step back in time. Back to the beginning of time. The first age. Now back at the dawn of time, there are only two entities in existence. A door, like the kind you walk through when you go inside someplace, and a breakfast centaur. That's just the way it was back then. It was a simpler time. No TV, no cell phones, just a door and a centaur. Now we call this age the long wait, and eventually it came to an end when the centaur decided to open the door. Behind the door was the sun, the sky, the earth, and the oceans. Behind the door was the fish, birds, and the horses. All right, everybody, you can come in now, said the breakfast centaur. All right, everybody, come on in. And that's how our world came into existence. Now, it wasn't long afterwards that the centaur went up on a mountain. He didn't like the way all the creatures were eyeing the breakfast he was making, so he took it up high, all for himself. You know, a lot of people like to think of the breakfast centaur as pure of heart. I've been down to Antarctica where the speed limit rhinoceroses still worship him as an infallible deity. Makes for a good bedtime story, if anything. You ask me. Great and divine door opener. True, he did open the door eventually and let everyone inside. But when it came to his morning meals, he was selfish and cruel. So he sat alone, up on the mountain, making breakfast. Well, one day, some eggs over easy slipped out of his frying pan, escaping into the world below. It was humankind that stumbled upon it, and it spread like wildfire. It quickly became popular as a new element. Water, fire, earth, wind, and now eggs over easy. There are many who use this new power for good, and architecture the likes of which this world has never seen was made. There are others who used it for evil. Greedy wizards strapped themselves to rocket boosters and came boosting out of the hills to learn the secrets of eggs over easy. And it wasn't long before they mastered this new power, and they could command it at will. Well, in their arrogance, they created a horrible and terrible beast known as Rucknath, an eggs over easy monster. All who stood before this beast were defeated. Even the Pope, he got killed too. Rocknath's rampage continued, decimating our world. No one could stop him. A group of survivors that later became known as the Frying Pan Losers formed a last desperate plan to save our world. Their plan was to climb up the mountain and steal more breakfast from the Centaur's pan in order to aid them in their fight against Rocknath. So they did it. They scaled the mountain, and under cover of night, they stole a mighty pancake from the frying pan. This wasn't an ordinary pancake. His name was Matham the Pancake, and he was a warrior. And it wasn't long before he was armed, and he went toe-to-toe with Rocknath in a crazy battle. They fought long and they fought hard. During the battle, one of them farted. I don't know who it was, so don't ask me. And even if I did know, I want to tell you anyway.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, eventually Matham was able to successfully seal Rocknath in the pancake dimension, defeating him forever. Our world was saved. However, word of what was going on in the lower worlds had reached the ears of the breakfast centaur, and he came down from the mountain in wrath and raged that humankind had gotten their hands on his breakfast. Matham was still weak and wounded from battle. Some reports say they saw him putting on a Band-Aid afterwards. Well, at the end of that triumphant and tragic day saw Matham slain by the breakfast centaur's anger. However, in his last moments, Matham was able to knock the great frying pan out of the centaur's hand, spilling breakfast out into our world forever. Try as he might, the centaur couldn't get it all back in. Well, they say after that, the old centaur became rusted and bitter. He now spends his days taking vengeance upon the world. Slowly but surely, he's trying to move all those things that he once welcomed through the door back to the other side, until he can be alone with his breakfast again. And that's why whenever we walk through a door, we say, "Bless me once and bless me twice," in the hope it's not the breakfast centaur trying to trick us back to the other side. And one more thing too, if he catches you, he'll cut your heart out with a waffle maker and make a waffle out of it. He'll make a waffle out of it and put it in his trophy case.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Enough of that, though. Dark business, really, and I won't say any more of it. When Matham knocked the frying pan out of the centaur's hands, his body was set ablaze. Now his charred remains lay smoldering on the ground. And out of the ashes was born none other than Mr. Pancake himself.
Yeah. Pancake.
Well, they say a bird was watching when Mr. Pancake was born. A bird that later became known as a phoenix. Phoenix took some notes and flew away. Make no mistake, it was Mr. Pancake's idea to be born out of the ashes of your dead parents, and the bird stole it. Fuck that bird. A lot of things happened once Mr. Pancake was born. Things were set into motion. Perhaps the most important thing was that a bunch of dentists started trying to kill Mr. Pancake. You see, what had happened was a couple of dentists had gone to see a powerful mystic. The mystic had informed them that someday, sure as gasoline replaced steam power, sure as iPods replaced CDs, someday Mr. Pancake would replace them too. He would become the most powerful dentist that the world had ever seen, and they would be rendered obsolete. So they went out and forced to kill him. So it came to pass that at only 2 months old, Mr. Pancake was already getting into shootouts with dentists. Well, he can only dodge bullets for so long, And eventually Mr. Pancake took one in the leg. It was in the desert. And he limped across the desert, crawled across it, the sun beating down on him the whole time. He crossed the desert much in the same way that a turtle breathes oxygen. It's now my honor to announce that we have the Truckee Tahoe Interdisciplinary Terrestrial Performing Arts Group that is going to reenact this moment in Mr. Pancake's life that has become so iconic when everyone thinks about Mr. Pancake. So we're going to take a moment to set that up. Bear with us for a second, a minute or two. Just going to get everything in order here. All right, without further ado, I'd like to present the reenactment of Mr. Pancake's long crawl across the desert. Here we go. Get ready, guys. All right, let's do this. Hey, this doesn't kill me. I want you to know I'm thankful for everything you did. We can work something out, alright? Doesn't have to be like that. Get up, you son of a bitch! It's over, we lost. I'm done. This is fucking stupid. I'm done with this shit. I'm done. I'm not getting back up. We lost.
Get up, you son of a bitch.
You bastard. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the performance and it fucking broke. It's broken. If I knew how to fix it, I would have done it already. Can you come over here and fix it? Thank you. Yeah, just kind of. I did everything you told me. I did everything you told me to do. It just kind of. Yeah. You know, like I had it in my hands and I was just. I gave it one of these and then. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Take a second to thank the Truckee Tahoe Interdisciplinary Terrestrial Performing Arts Group for coming out tonight. They did a really great job. Okay. All right. Where were we?
You're gonna sleep good tonight.
Well, Mr. Pancake had just completed his crawl across the desert. At the end of his long journey, he found a hole. He crawled inside, and it opened up into a vast cavern. Little did Mr. Pancake know that he had just stumbled upon the hidden realm of Smortle the Demon King's lair. Most people just called Smortle Old Toothpaste Breath on account of the fact that he was always brushing his teeth. Ironic, really, that salvation from the dentist would come at the hands of such an avid toothpaste brusher.
Funny.
Truth be told, old Smortle looked like he had more business being a farmer than being a demon king on account of the overalls he was wearing. Around his neck, he wore the rings of Saturn. On his hip was holstered a stun gun from the 1982 Olympics. And on his feet, he wore Crocs 18 sizes too big, so that his feet kind of swam in them the way fish do in the ocean. And one more thing, too. He had 22 belly buttons. Mr. Pancake came before him and begged him for help. The old demon laughed. and the cave filled with the smell of Crest Arctic Mint Fresh toothpaste. "Very well," said the demon. "I will help you, Mr. Pancake. But, in return, you will be in debt to me, henceforth." Mr. Pancake knew that no good could come of being in debt to a demon, but he had no choice. He was badly wounded, so he made the deal. Old Toothpaste Breath used magic demon fire to heal Mr. Pancake. However, the magic would take a few days to run its course, so Mr. Pancake was stuck waiting around inside a cave with his leg on fire for a while. And while he was sitting there, he got to thinking. After his brush with death, he needed something to defend himself. And maybe, just maybe, he could use his leg on fire to his advantage. Cut back to the surface world. The dentists were still relentlessly searching the desert for Mr. Pancake. They didn't believe that he was dead. They knew he was out there somewhere. In fact, there were so many dentists in the desert at that time, you needed a flamethrower to get through them all. They left a trail of dental floss everywhere they went. And all the desert creatures got pissed and left. All the creatures, that is, except for Mr. Pancake and old Smortle the Demon King. Wouldn't you know it, at the crack of dawn every morning, old Smortle was out there gathering the dental floss up, as if it was some kind of Easter egg hunt. Well, Mr. Pancake went outside the cave on the 5th day of his recovery, and he looked out into the sky. Here's what he saw up there. A bunch of dentists flying around. They were using their hatred and their college degrees to become airborne. Mr. Pancake knew this was not good. It wouldn't be long before they caught him now. So he went back into the cave, and he began work on his first cannonball. Yes, this is the famous story of how Mr. Pancake forged his famous cannonballs. He took a slab of metal and put it over his leg, the demon fire still burning on it. And he worked it. And he worked it for 8.5 days without any sleep. Finally, it was done. He rolled it out into the middle of the desert. It had scales like a fish. It smelled like a car. And it made noises like a bird. It is the most beautiful thing that had ever been created in the universe. And immediately, all the desert creatures came back to worship it. The dentists immediately stopped their hunt. The hatred diffused out of their body through reverse osmosis, and they came back down to the land to admire it. And they didn't stop admiring that cannonball for 7,700 years, until the world blew up. That's in the future. Well, the dentists settled there, and they built a great city. And that's why toothpaste is so expensive, because dentists have to ship it out of the desert on feral camels. Fuck that, I'd be pissed if someone shipped me across the desert on a feral camel. Nasty business, if you ask me. Well, Mr. Pancake wasn't done making cannonballs yet. He'd gotten a fix for it. He liked it. So he went back into the cave, and he thought for a while. But he was stumped. He didn't know what to make of his second cannonball. On the 20th day of his recovery, he stepped outside of the cave again, and he looked into the sky. And this time, he saw not dentists, but a bunch of geese flying around. And Mr. Pancake didn't like that very much. So he went back into the cave. He began work on his second cannonball. He put another slab of metal over his leg on fire, and he worked it without sleep for many days. Until finally, it was done. A cannonball engineered specifically to kill a goose. Now, it may not have been as beautiful as the first cannonball, but it was a lot more powerful. Mr. Pancake took it outside the cave. "Fuck these birds," he said. He launched the cannonball into the sky, and a goose got its face melted off. It worked. Mr. Pancake was happy then, and he rested. You know, things that you can get out of the sky with cannonballs are a lot like a bad pricker bush. You cut it back, it's just going to come back stronger. Mr. Pancake knew this. He could have spent the rest of his days purging the skies of things with cannonballs. But he made the humble choice, the wise choice to call it quits. And he ended his career as a blacksmith. That, and his leg was done healing, so he decided to leave. He said his goodbyes to old Smortle the Demon King, who very quickly reminded him that someday he was going to come and call for a favor. Mr. Pancake said, "All right, I will see you then." And he set off on another quest into the distance. You know, things just had a way of working out for Mr. Pancake. Wherever it went, it seemed like he could just make things happen. Maybe he was lucky. The other day, I tried to freeze some ice cubes in the freezer. I took an ice tray and I filled it with water. I opened the freezer and I put the ice tray inside. Came back maybe 2 hours later. Opened the freezer. Took the ice tray out. It was still liquid, no ice at all. So I went back and I lowered the temperature down on the freezer, down to say 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Put the ice tray back in. Came back about 4 hours later. Checked it. All water, not frozen at all. You see, things like that just never happen to Mr. Pancake. He just had something about him. Don't worry. Mr. Pancake's next big quest. Now, every cannonball needs a cannon. And every cannon needs a pirate ship. So, it was natural that Mr. Pancake decided to go about finding himself a pirate ship. Well, he hopped on Craigslist and began a search. Finally, he found a seller that he liked, and he contacted them. "Hey, I was wondering if I could come take a look at your pirate ship." The seller responded, "Sure, how's Wednesday at 3 p.m. sound?" Mr. Pancake responded, "That's not going to work for me. I'm busy Wednesday at 3 p.m. How's another time work?" The seller messaged back, "Well, that's a shame. How's Friday at 3 p.m.? Mr. Pancake messaged back, "Yeah, it'll work for me. I'll see you Friday at 3 p.m. down by the docks." And so they met there. The seller's name was Jimmy. Jimmy showed Mr. Pancake the ship, and it was beautiful. It was everything he had ever wanted inside a pirate ship. However, he wanted $3 million for it. Now, Mr. Pancake didn't have a penny to his name. He was broke. But he was very clever. So here's what he did. He took a banana out of his pocket. And he taped it to his forehead, like so. And he told Jimmy, "Jimmy, look at this banana that is duct taped to my forehead." And wouldn't you know it, Jimmy was so busy looking at the banana that Mr. Pancake hopped on the pirate ship and sailed away. That became Mr. Pancake's first act of piracy. However, he didn't think it through very well. And soon he sailed down a narrow stream into a small pond and became grounded. Now he had a problem. The authorities were coming after him. He was now officially a pirate, but he was grounded and stuck. So he had to think quick. Off by the side of the pond, he saw a gas station. So he decided to go inside and see what he can find in there. Maybe something could help him get his pirate ship unstuck. Wouldn't you know it, he walked in the store right during the course of a robbery. The robber had the cashier at gunpoint. "Give me all your sidewalks," the robber said. The cashier opened the register and pulled out a sidewalk, held it up in the air. It was the kind of sidewalk that belonged on the side of the street. It was the kind of sidewalk that you put your feet on when you walk across it. It was the kind of sidewalk that would get warm when the sun came out. Well, the robber took it and he held it up to his face and examined it, admiring the concrete. Then, just that second, a biker came riding down the sidewalk and ran the robber over, shattering his soul into 50 states like the United States of America. And that was it for him. Now, the cash register person saw it fit to give the biker a reward. So he pulled out some cigarettes that he had found in the sewer last Tuesday. Said, "Here, it's not much, but I figured I'd give you something for your trouble." And he gave the biker the sewer cigarettes. Now, Mr. Pancake knew that if he could get his hands on those sewer cigarettes, he could get out of that swamp. So he thought fast. He went up to the cash register and said, "Well, actually, it was me that summoned that biker to hit the robber in the face. So actually, those sewer cigarettes belong to me." The cash register thought about it for a minute. Thought long and hard. Finally said, "All right, I guess you're right. Here are the sewer cigarettes." Mr. Pancake got them. He took them back onto his ship. And wouldn't you know it, the sewer cigarettes turned out to be one of those transformer robots, hiding in disguise. When it revealed its true form to Mr. Pancake, it granted him one wish. And you know what that wish was. He wished to get out of there, and he wished to put his pirate ship somewhere fit to sail. Good place to be a pirate. So, the transformer let out a mighty fart out of his ass. And the robot fart filled the sails of Mr. Pancake's ship, and he sailed off into the sky. He sailed and he sailed for many miles up in the air. And so it was that Mr. Pancake came to Lake Tahoe, sailing on a robot's fart. Now, they say that the sight was so beautiful, so majestic, of his ship touching down from the sky into Lake Tahoe, that a bunch of vampires came out in the middle of the day to see it. And they all exploded, and they were exposed to the sunlight. But their grandchildren told me that they exploded with a smile on their face, for they had seen the majesty of Mr. Pancake arriving at Lake Tahoe. Well, afterwards those vampires became known as the Hell 87, because there were 87 of them, and they all went to hell after they exploded. Where was I when all this was going down? I said I knew Mr. Pancake. Well, I was down by the river, trying my hand at becoming a river warrior. In the end, I got my ass slapped by the fish gods. That was only the first chapter of my life. In the second chapter, I came back more powerful than ever and became a true river warrior. Now me and Mr. Pancake were both in the water, and our paths were set to cross. That's a story for next week, in the golden age of Mr. Pancake. He's at his prime. That's when I met him. And we will be having the second Mr. Pancake performance then. There's a lot that goes on there. You have the Curse of the Crystal Dragon, all sorts of stuff. Mr. Pancake's encounter with a whale. Lake whale, that is. That's really going to be a great one. It's going to be really good. The fuck are you doing here?
I'm here for the crew reunion.
The fuck are you doing here?
I told you not to tell the story. It'd be too dangerous. So here I am.
Look, you don't call the shots anymore. That ship It's at the bottom of the goddamn lake, along with your precious position.
I got a family, I got a wife, kids. What do you have to lose from telling this story but your booze?
You're a coward. You were only ever in it for the treasure. You never gave a rat's ass about Mr. Pancake.
You never told them how you, or you hadn't told them yet how you were going to betray him.
That's enough.
Yeah, that isn't enough. You backstabbed Mr. Pancake. You didn't tell him.
I said that's enough.
Well, Liam, we've seen enough of you. You be safe. I'll see you around. I hope nothing happens to you.
Yeah, I'll be seeing you around. Fuck! It's the show's still on for next week. Next week, same time, same place. We're continuing the story. It's happening. I'm not gonna be intimidated.